Hi, Lori here. I'm going to make a layout and show you how I do it so you can watch along with me. I've already selected the photos, products, and fonts that I'll be using so we can focus on just making instead of choosing things. Go ahead and get started. I'm in Lightroom here with two photos already edited the way that I want them, and then I just right click, edit in, open as Smart Object in Photoshop. That works straight out of the camera. If you have raw files, JPEGs, does not matter. I never export from Lightroom unless I'm giving a file to somebody else. For scrapping, it's just not necessary. And I want them open as smart objects because that way I can change my mind. I can resize and then go back up without losing any quality. Since my camera takes 37 megapixel pictures, I 9 times out of 10 want them sized down, and a lot of my actions do automatic sizing down. But sometimes I do want to go back up and zoom in for a close crop, so it's important that I have that option available. Once I have my pictures open in Photoshop, the first thing I do, I have an action right here, it's called Start Here, and then I have the number of photos that I'm working with, and it can stack. If I have 5 photos, I just click 3 and then click 2. This was originally a set of actions, I believe, called Collecting Things from Charmbox Studios, but I have edited them a little bit since then, and I think hers went up to 10 items, and I never ever use that many photos. She was originally thinking of opening all of your elements and papers and everything. I only use it for photos, so 3 is usually enough for me. It starts out in an empty 12 by 12 document, even though I scrap rectangular, because all of my templates are 12 by 12, and when I open up a template, I don't want it to resize or move anything. I want to do that myself. So when I open up a template, automatically it starts moving layer by layer into that open document. That's part of the Anna Forrest Designs credit tracker script that I bought from her Etsy store. When you install that, there's a checkbox, I think, to say I want, when I open new files, for them to go into my working document. So I pretty much only do templates for that, because I just see for elements and papers I just drag from Explorer. I got my template and my photos in the document. I just move my photos up to approximately where I'm going to have them later, and then I run my Rectangulify script, or action rather. I usually just use the keyboard shortcuts, but just to show that it's there. This resizes the canvas to 8 by 10, sizes everything down from 12 inches to 10 inches across, and also adds my preferred default paper layer style, shadow style, to every layer. Photoshop does not, at least right now, give me the option of only adding shadow styles to certain layers, so I just do everything except the background, and then I can remove from text paint whatever layers that I don't actually want a layer style on. In this case, when I do the Rectangulify, it always anchors at the top, which sometimes I want that, sometimes I want it anchored at the bottom, sometimes I want it in the middle, but I just decided to have just one action and then edit it after. So I've got I've got resizing and moving actions down here. 1 inch up, just moves everything except the background layer 1 inch up. And then as a white space scrapper, I will often also size down 80%. But not always, otherwise I just have it all in the Rectanglify script. And I've got another set of the same thing, 1 inch and 80% for when I've already put my papers and stuff in here, so it ignores 2 layers at the bottom instead of 1. That's the only reason I've got 2 there. So now I'm going to, I've got an action that will move the current layer to be centered over the layer below. I will do that with my photo. And then I have an action that clips to the layer below and also sizes it down 50%. And calls up the transform so I can immediately just start tweaking it. And since it's a smart object, it doesn't matter that 50% was a little bit too much in this case. I can just fix it and nothing is lost. And I'll do it again with the other photo. The layer selected is centered on the layer below. I want to do sort of a close crop on this one, so I'm not going to do the resize. I'm just going to clip. Okay. And sometimes when I edit in Lightroom, I'm just looking at the one photo by itself and I think, oh, that looks great. And then I get it on my layout and I go, oh, this one looks a lot brighter than that one, and I want them to match better. So I'm going to use an adjustment layer to make that look a little more matchy-matchy, like they go together. Clip that to that photo layer, and I think that looks pretty good. Now that my photos are placed, I tend to work from the bottom up with templates. Just out of habit, I've always done that. So I'll go to the background and select a background paper. When I drag papers onto my canvas, since it's a rectangle, the paper doesn't cover the whole canvas. So, of course, I have an action to size it up to cover the whole canvas. Now the template has some journaling down here, but I'm actually going to be putting a journal card here, so I'm going to just ignore that. I'm going to actually delete. And I can use a busy paper if I want to. Let's see. Well, wouldn't say it's busy, but I probably wouldn't journal on that. So, let's see, I think instead of a strip of paper, I'm going to use an element here. What should I do? I think I'm going to use this vellum flag. It goes sideways. I'm going to use again that center on the layer below action, and then I have a whole set, I'll show you, I have a whole set of actions for various types of elements. It adds a shadow and calls up the transform tool right away so I can move it around, resize, rotate, whatever. And for certain kinds of elements like buttons, where I almost never use a full-size button on my layout, it goes ahead and sizes it down 50%. I just use an action that deletes the layer below and then moves to the layer above. Since, as I said, I usually go from the bottom up with templates. It just makes sense with my workflow to do that. Let's see. I'll go with a solid for this little tab. I'm going to do that size down and clip action again. since it's a big paper on a small spot. I like that. Okay. Obviously with papers I'm not deleting those layers like I did with the element. I really like this paper. Again, size down and clip. And I can always center it again. I like that. One more paper and then we can start getting into the elements. I'm just going to do a straight clip because I don't want that chevron to shrink too much. Okay, now this, on the template it's a photo, but I'm actually going to be using a journal card. So I do the center, and then I have my paper shadow action, and then I'm just going to size it down to about the size of that photo, and then that action that deletes and moves up the layer. So right here we have 3 elements on one layer. I want them to be on separate layers, so I'm going to run this script called Split to Layers that I found free online. I'll find the link again. It keeps the original layer and hides it, but I'm just going to delete it because I don't need it. The reason I like having them all separate like that is because now when I drag on an element, let's see, what should I put there? I'm going to use this little white flower. I want to put it exactly where that is on the template, so I can use that center on the layer below, and it centers on that one element instead of centering on the middle of 3 elements that are all over the page, which has nothing to do with where I want anything. And again, I just delete it. I use it just for positioning, and then I don't need it anymore. Delete it. I'm going to actually Alt drag so I have a copy of that button position on the center, and delete. I think we might be overlapping those buttons, which I don't want, so I'm going to zoom in and look at that. Yeah, it's a little bit too big, so we'll just size down. I'm not even sure that's the same size anymore. Yeah, it was a little bit too small. Okay. Now, since this is peeking out from behind, I'm going to find a relatively flat element. Maybe this ephemera. Center. Oops, and I accidentally hit the wrong button. When you have actions on keyboard shortcuts, sometimes you will hit the wrong keyboard shortcut. That's okay. Alright. And since when you drag from Explorer onto your layout, everything comes on as a smart object. So again, I can change my mind, size back up. I think I'm going to actually do a little bit like that. Skip over the photos, which I've already done. Let's see if I can find a long and skinny. Just a stitches. And then up here with the little string. And again, I center it where that element is. Just gonna rotate, shadow, and I have an action half. It just sizes down 50%. Comes in handy for us white space scrappers, since we normally don't want things so big. Actually, I'm going to move that up a little bit. Again, we've got two elements that are on one layer. I'm going to split that with my little script. I originally got the script for de-sheeting sheeted alphas, but it's come in handy a lot more than that with these templates. Center, shadow, resize, delete. Center, shadow, resize, delete. Okay, and now since I've done the whole thing, I'm actually back at the beginning. And now that I'm looking at the whole thing, I can change my mind. I don't like that tab color so much anymore. So let's pick a different one. I like that better. The journal card that I use, obviously it's not part of the kit that I picked, and the kit uses some dark blue and almost white, whereas the journal card is very black and white. So I want to make it match a little better, and I will use a gradient map adjustment layer to do that. Clip just to the journal card layer. So the white. When you add an adjustment layer, it selects the mask rather than the actual gradient. And I need to have the gradient selected so I can select colors from the, not from the mask, which will obviously only be white, but from the rest of the layout. So that looks pretty good. And then instead of black, let's use this dark blue, or should we go with the green? Maybe from the star. Oh, I like that. So if you zoom in, it keeps all the texture of the card, since I use a gradient map. I like that. I find that to be a really handy way of recoloring things. Now the title. I took these pictures of my girls on a merry-go-round on the playground near Maggie's preschool. And whenever they go on it, they sing, "You Spin Me Right Round, Baby Right Round." So that's what I'm going to be journaling about, and that's what I'm going to call it. You Spin Me. And I found a really fun font. What was it called? There's no, I don't remember what it's called. I used Claudia Jane. Okay. Claudia Jane. I'm going to go with the that blue color again. Let's see if I can get it from here. And I think I'm going to use a style to make it blend a little better. Yeah, that looks pretty good. And for crediting purposes, styles don't end up in the credit tracker script, so I know that this is a Just Jamie because you can hover over it and see. But it's a Just Jamie distress style, and since I do want to be able to credit that, I will go find in my products distressed styles, and I can drag anything. I drag the folder image, anything from that folder onto my layout. Since I put it behind the background, you don't even see it, but the credit tracker now has that crediting information from the credit tracker file so that it shows up later. Okay, and then in my picture file image, it has the date, so I know how to date. So let's see, it was the 9th of June. Let's I don't have the font loaded that I want. I will pick a nice typewriter font. The Sophia from Heather Joyce is a nice one. That looks pretty good. Okay. So now I'm just gonna, I'll type up my journaling later, I think, so I can show you tweak. I would normally do it here, but I'll show you how I tweak my shadows. I've got an action that puts the shadow on a separate layer and then immediately calls up the warp tool, so I can start playing with my shadows. Okay, and with vellum in particular, I like to delete what's right below so it's not so dark, but I do that after I've tweaked it so I don't end up tweaking deleted shadow. That would be a bit weird. I don't always tweak every paper, just enough so that it doesn't look completely computer generated. Alright. So other than that, I just journal and then I think I'm done. I'll pretend that I'm done. I don't want to make you watch me type all the journaling, but I have an action for right at the end. I just hit F12. It shows me the credits so I can just make sure everything I want to be there is there in case I forgot, like the styles, for example, are easy to forget. Yep, it's all there. I want the store name and the product links. for CT layouts, always want the BB code. It put that in the document file info, and I can just hit close. Then I like to use a date-based file naming system, so just looking at the date over on my the layer with the photo, I can see the date. Merry-go-round. I save as TIFFs just so I can see the file in my Explorer window. After it saves the full-size TIFF version, it will also automatically save the web version, the 600 pixel wide sharpened for web version, which is taking an unusually long time today. Maybe this screencasting software is making it slower, I'm not sure. Okay, then I just optimize the file size, save. I save it in my OneDrive so I can get to it from Instagram. Then if I'm going to be posting automatic, like right now, to galleries, I can just copy this, hit OK, and then there's this other supply tracker, especially handy when I'm using multiple products. It just gets the name of every layer over here. That's usually enough to give you the idea of the designer and the product, especially since I include the other crediting information as well. So I just copy and paste this as well, and I delete all these template layers that are not helpful, and the photo names and all that, and just copy that over. That's it. I hope that was helpful, and if you have any questions, let me know.